top questions I get about COVID vaccines is how do we know they're safe in the long term? So let's discuss. Long term for vaccines is a few weeks to months, and I'll tell you why with an analogy. Let's say I drank a few beers on Sunday and had to give a big presentation 2 days later on the Tuesday. I would not be at all worried that I'd still be tipsy for that presentation Tuesday because I know from both experience and biology that the alcohol doesn't last in my system in significant enough amounts to make me tipsy for more than a handful of hours. Similarly, vaccines don't actually last very long in your body either. For mRNA vaccines like Moderna and Pfizer, the mRNA degrades within a few days, and any spike protein it helped your body make shortly afterwards. And there's no evidence that any of the lipid carriers that help deliver the vaccine product to your cells last in any significant amounts for more than a few days to weeks at most. If you've heard otherwise, it was probably from someone misrepresenting pharmacokinetic studies done in mice and rats, or misinterpreting papers written about spike protein from COVID infection, not vaccination. This fact check can help. The vaccine product doesn't last in your body very long. What does last is the immunity it helps your natural immune system make. Now, rare events can happen in response to that immune activation from a vaccine, but immunity from vaccination is way less risky than immunity through exposure to a pathogen like the virus that causes COVID. When we think about the biology of how vaccines work, it makes sense that when there are rare but serious side effects from vaccines, it's usually in the first few weeks following vaccination, because that's when you're building immunity, when your immune response is still active. After those few weeks, you keep the immune memory, but your immune system's no longer being activated, and so that's why there's no precedence for anything new to be happening in that time window. So after vaccination, there's a fixed period of low risk for long-term benefit of immunity. It's a pretty good deal. Now you may be thinking, what about the clots from adenoviral vaccines or myocarditis or GBS? And I hear you, those are rare but serious events, but remember, they happened within weeks to at most a few months after vaccination, not years. It just took us a little longer to find out about them because they're so rare, and we have to be careful not to confuse long-term with so rare it takes a long time to find. Let's look at some data from Canada. The stats here reflect any serious adverse event following vaccination, whether or not it's been shown to be associated yet. First, while serious, they are rare. Out of 45 million doses administered, 0.005% were followed by a serious event. Second, they typically occur within a few weeks, although there was a case of myocarditis that happened 94 days after vaccination. Again, we're not entirely sure if that one's associated, but it's still counted. Now, I'm not trying to minimize these cases just because they're rare or happened within an expected time period. In fact, these are all taken very seriously by scientists, public health officials, and the media, and transparently discussed. In fact, all the info I just showed you is available on publicly accessible websites. This demonstrates extraordinary efforts to continued safety monitoring, and the billions of people that have been vaccinated worldwide. You are not a guinea pig. Be wary of anyone overhyping long-term effects of COVID vaccines, but not COVID itself.